Is there such a thing as too much luck? Is there such a thing as too much fun? Messing around, wondering how it's taken so long. I'm really so strong. It's not too much at all.
Welcome to Too Much. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Today, we are doing something a little fun, a little different. We have two podcasters today. Anna Corinne is here,
Yay. Hi.
which we haven't done before. We've done so many episodes with artists and musicians, and this is really fun to dig into a world we both know really well and hear how Anna has done things uniquely her own way. And so I'm going to read you a little bit about her and then we're going to dig in. Anna Howard is a podcast host, editor, and strategist whose work is concerned with the relentless pursuit of curiosity, a theme that we love here on Too Much. So many people have become too caught up in marketing tactics and social strategy to access and express their true wonder. So after 2 years working behind the scenes with podcast hosts, Anna launched her own podcast, Wild Geese, a podcast inspired by Mary Oliver's poem and the liberating idea that you do not have to be good, you only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. In less than a year, Anna grew her audience from 0 to 170,000 by throwing out many of the best practices that social media gurus say are non-negotiable. As a result, she's become passionate about helping others tap into a sense of self-trust and agency that will get them past the planning advice stage and into action. Through creative and philosophical conversations on topics ranging from research as a leisure activity to romantic desire as creative inspiration, she hopes her words give her audience fuller access to their own curiosity and creativity. Welcome, Anna.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I didn't know that I was your first podcast guest,
You are.
podcaster guest.
It's
That's
yeah,
so cool.
it's funny because I feel like you might be this way too, but I feel like when you podcast, I have about like 2 podcasts I listen to exclusively.
Yeah.
And then
hmm
my intern
Just
introduced
binge them.
yes, I like and they're all it's like spirituality or murder. It's like could not be more polar opposite.
Heal or kill.
Exactly. I'm like, the psyche. I'm like, I'm interested in the psyche on
Yes.
all
Yeah.
aspects of
Right.
humanity.
Right. You're touching on everything.
And so my
I like that
intern
approach.
sent me your work and I just loved it because it is quite
Thank
it
you.
it's quite cerebral, which is something that I really enjoy. But I think you have a way of inviting us into a creative universe. Like you just even how you shoot your videos, they're their own creative engine separate from the content. And I really admire that.
Thank you so much. That's like so lovely to hear. I feel like sometimes just having that like reflected back to me, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. I guess I did intentionally do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're making something, it's just like it all comes together alone in your bedroom and you're like, is this translating? So that's very lovely to hear.
Does anyone care? That's always the thing. You're like, okay, I made this
Oh
thing. I put
yeah,
my heart into it. Does anyone
right.
care?
Especially at the beginning. I was talking to someone earlier today who's about to launch a podcast, and she was kind of talking to me about that cringy moment where it's like, I'm getting that feeling that like, ew, I'm about to launch a podcast. Like there is something that feels like cringy about it. Like people talk about it as if it's like, I don't know, a frivolous thing to
Mhm.
do. And when you're first starting, it is such a hump to get over of like, no, actually, this is worth my time and it's worth other people's time. And I'm gonna really dedicate myself to this.
I think it also depends on the caliber of podcast you're creating. But for me, I live in Los Angeles, so I'm driving all the time. And in my neural plasticity work, listening to a spirituality podcast on a drive has deeply helped me code better patterning in my brain. And so I look at it like a practice, not just I'm listening to this thing. I am creating inputs in my brain so I can show up better as a human every day.
Yeah, I love that. Podcasting took me through college. Like, I remember listening to so many podcasts in college and feeling like I was genuinely learning more from the podcasts I was listening to than the classes that I was taking sometimes, which feels insane to say, but it's true. I mean, like, I've taken so much away from podcasting while moving my body, like going from point A to point B and also feeling like I'm getting like a master class as I'm doing that.
Yeah, it's a different mode of learning. We all have different ways that we ingest how we learn, and the school system that was created is very much one size fits all for the mass brain. And for those of us that think a little differently, I'm a very experiential learner. So it was really
Yeah.
important to me to start working and doing. And I think that's really when my brain really grew intellectually and academically, was when I was able to put it into practice.
Yeah, this is reminding me of the next episode that I've been working on all day. So my next episode is about like actually how to learn because we don't really learn how to learn in school, and also a lot of schooling is created in a way that's very punitive and hierarchical, and that kind of undermines the learning process and makes it to where people think that they don't like learning. And it's like, no, you love learning, you just hate school. And those two
Mhm.
things are not the same thing.
Well, I always talk about this because I have like a PhD at this point in human psychology and probably like any sort of therapy related topic, but I have no credentials to back it up other than I read a book a week and I've talked to every expert and I've been in my own experiential journey of every modality possible. And what's hard about that
Yeah,
is you're like, I'm an expert in this, but because the world we live in relies on that external like accreditation for it to be valid, you're not necessarily considered an expert
right,
without that. And I'm like, I don't want to go spend be $100,000 in debt to have a piece of paper when I already am
right.
living and doing this and integrating it in my own life and being that example, hopefully, for the people around me.
Right. And also because so much of it is accessible for free to learn to like take it into your own hands and go on JSTOR. You can go on JSTOR and get 100 articles completely for free and get like a college level education without like going back to college and actually getting that accreditation.
I know. I'm like,
What's
what
the
is the
word?
word?
Accreditation?
I think it's accreditation.
Accreditation.
Whatever. We'll look it up
Credit?
later. Who
Whatever. That
cares?
credit.
We're learning over here.
I know words.
Exactly. So you talk a lot about being a shadow artist before stepping into being the main character energy. And this is such a relatable, universal concept. For me, I was a producer for a very long time before I felt I had the guts or the financial stability to let myself take the risk as being talent. And so I'd love you to talk through your journey of finding the courage to step out of the shadows and into your main character energy.
Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people experience. For me, there was this feeling, and it feels cliche to call it imposter syndrome, but it really that's all it is, of like nothing I say is going to be as interesting as something that somebody else would say. So why would I start a podcast? So for years before starting my own, I was doing it behind the scenes for other people. And part of that was because I liked editing, but part of it was because I didn't think that I could possibly do it. And the thing that helped me step away from that feeling was sort of this like getting rid of the idea that it needs to be like the most groundbreaking thing that's ever
Mm,
been released. Like I think we can put so much pressure on ourselves to like the only reason that I should put this out there is if it changes someone's life. And it's
yeah.
like, maybe it's my life that I'm changing by doing this,
Mm,
and that is enough. And I had to, when I was like thinking, okay, if I do start a podcast, what is it going to be? What's the concept? Whatever. Wild Geese came along because of that first sentence in the poem, you do not have to be good. It's like, hey, actually, what if this is bad? And what if that's okay?
yeah.
Like, it's all right
Yeah.
for me to put something out there that's not like the best thing in the world. And that was enough for me to get past that first obstacle that told me that I didn't have enough to say. And then from there, I have gotten past the like, the only thing that I'm going to put out there is like subpar, mediocre stuff, and gotten to a point where I'm like, actually, no, what I'm putting out there is good,
Right.
But first you have to
Right.
kind of allow yourself to be bad at something.
Well, we have an episode about being the beginner, and I have spent I would say like the past 3, 4 years in a transitionary career space, and so much of it has been about being a beginner and getting this next stack of skills to step into this next chapter of my career that I think you cannot pr properly level up professionally without this period of accumulation of new skills. And so if you don't do that, if you don't allow yourself to be the beginner, you're gonna get stuck at a certain rung because you have to be able to invite this new level of mastery or challenge or growth or success into your life, and that doesn't happen without something changing.
Yeah. And it's really difficult to allow yourself to go through that beginner stage because we like lose access to our sense of play.
Mm,
Because as adults, we're like expected to, like you said, be the expert and come with all of these credentials and, have the PhD and whatever in order to talk on anything. But it's like you can't possibly get to that next level without going back to like kind of a childlike
mhm.
mindset that allows you to play around and look foolish and move through that without like such a sense of shame that it paralyzes you.
Yeah. And the thing about I just wanna mention this because as much as you were like, "I'm a shadow artist stepping into this thing," you would spend all this time producing other podcasts, AKA you have a skill set that will benefit this next thing. And I often think those of us that are afraid of stepping into this other role, it's like those skills that you're accumulating while you are a shadow artist are also gonna help the day that you
Yeah,
decide to be the main character. Like, it is so
totally.
beneficial to know all aspects of how
Hmm.
to do what you do because then you are better talent.
Yeah, it like I feel like I get so many young people DMing me and kind of being like, why am I not there yet? Why am I not at this? Like I'm beating myself up because I haven't reached whatever goal. And it's like, well, what you're doing right now is the foundation for that goal. Like that's a step. You can only go one step at a time. You're not gonna like leap past all of this and suddenly make a movie, you
Yeah.
know? You have to first figure out how to write the movie. And how do you figure out how to write the movie? You go to a class, you like actually sit down with your friends and like have a writing circle. And if while you're in the writing circle with your friends, you're like, damn, why am I not a published writer already? Then it's just going to be so much harder to get to that point where you are a published writer.
Anything that comes fast usually doesn't last. Like, I've seen so many friends who've had these, like, big moments of success that they weren't able to sustain because the foundation wasn't strong enough, and I
Hmm.
used to be I used to be this person. I used to be like, "Why is this not check this off, check this off." Like, I was in a race to accomplishment that was really unhealthy, and now I'm working on a book. I've been working on a book for a couple years. At this point, might be a few more. At this I'm, like, putting 0 pressure on this book because I don't currently know what it is. I had a very clear idea of what it was. I got some feedback from an agent this summer, really like astute feedback that I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't know what this is anymore." And instead of trying to bulldoze and figure that out, I was like, "I'm just going to let it sit for a while because I know that feedback is right. And when I do understand what it is going to be a much better book. I can force this book, but this is going to be a mediocre book." And maybe the book I end up writing is mediocre too. Like, we don't know. But I think that for me, I understood that I could see that there was something more valuable by giving it time and space, which is a new reaction for me as a human being.
Well, I'm proud of you. That sounds like a great reaction to have. I feel like I look at it as like a spiral and like sometimes like going forward feels like going backwards and that's not actually what's happening. It just feels like it is. But it's like sometimes you have to revisit old lessons and like that can be hard to grapple with. But something I've also been thinking about is like we have this idea of success and what it's going to feel like. And then when you have moments of success, so often it actually feels like pressure. Like that's what it felt like for me when things started really taking off with Wild Geese. There was so much of it that was like, this is so cool. This is so great. I can't believe this is happening. But then there was another side of it that was like, oh shit, can I keep this up? now? Like,
Mm,
am I equipped to like actually continue showing up at the level that I showed up that one time? And if I'm not, then it just happened once and that's that. And that could have actually been pretty bad for myself and my business if that had happened, like a viral moment, whatever,
right.
had happened before I was ready for it to. And even when it happened, I felt like I was ready, but it also was like so much pressure to then
Yeah,
maintain that level.
I understand. What I've looked at is like any artist or creator that I deeply respect trusts the timeline of their creative cycle. They're not focused on continual output, which is what the algorithms, the
Hmm.
platforms want us to do, because the stuff that's valuable takes time to marinate.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the difference between the mindset of like an artist and a marketing team, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and you need like a obviously a hybrid, a little bit of both. But have you found that for me on this podcast, it's always interesting. The people that I'm most excited to interview or the concepts that I'm most excited to talk about, I feel like are the least received. I feel like the things that I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
are like the high. I'm like, oh, you loved that, and I loved this that no one
Yeah.
cared about. That's always so interesting to me.
Yeah. It's interesting how I feel like a lot of the times it'll be the topics that are most meaningful to me and like actually change my life in some way. Like as I'm producing them, I'm like making discoveries that I'm like, oh my God, this is changing the way I'm moving throughout the world. This is crazy. And then I put it out there and it's just not as well received
Yeah.
versus the ones that I've actually been sitting on for a long time. And I like it's a lesson that I maybe learned a long time ago and I'm bringing it up now. And it kind of, when I put out a video like that or an episode like that, I'm always kind of like, is this gonna land? It feels kind of obvious to me. Like everything I'm saying feels so obvious right now. And then I put it out there, and that's the one that everyone's like, this is life changing. I'm like, oh,
Well, it's
is
because you've
it?
already
And
learned the lesson. This is always what I find
right,
too,
exactly.
is that I'm always like, "This
Yeah,
is 101, this is obvious," and I tell people things what I think is the most simple thing, and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh,
yeah,
because we have to meet people where they are and where we are, we're all on our own journey." So it's like for some of us that
right,
are, committed to research and reading and curiosity, you do accumulate this bank of knowledge that, most people are not reading a book a week. Most people are not spending this time necessarily that maybe you and I spend to accumulate ideas or knowledge or thoughts and then synthesize them to share with people. So it is a different way of thinking.
right. And we're just numb to our own knowledge. Like you forget that, like you said, that other people have not been like pouring so much time into understanding the same things that you have. And I think everyone, I mean, maybe less now because of all of the brain rot, but like everyone is really trying to learn something new all the time. And everyone is like deeply obsessed with something. And you'd be surprised, like when you get someone really talking about something that they're so obsessed with, how much of it makes you be like, oh, I know nothing.
Y Yeah.
What? Like I love to get to that point with a person where you like kind of reach that like hyper niche interest that you've never thought of. Like it's some random topic that you're like, I've never thought to think a thought about this. And I honestly probably will never think about it again. But because you're so on fire about it, I'm also so on fire about it
Yeah.
now, you
It's so
know?
contagious.
Hmm.
So I wanna chat a
Yeah, it's
little bit
fun.
about your creative process. I wanna know how it works.
Yeah, okay. So for Wild Geese, I when I set out to make these episodes, at first it was all guest episodes, and that really changed with the second season after I took a long break and decided to do mainly solo episodes where I'm like doing these deep dives on a certain topic each week, or not each week, every 2 weeks, because it really does take me that long to put these together. But I take a good amount of time to just follow my own curiosity very intentionally. This was something that took me a while to kind of relearn how to do. I feel like when you're in school, they're telling you what to research
Right.
and what you're going to be graded on, and you're letting that guide your focus. And then once you leave school, it's kind of up to you to figure out where your actual real curiosity lies and then expand on it. So I usually have like 3 or 4 interests that are floating around at all times, and they're changing constantly. And the process for an episode is like zeroing in on one of those and then just going in and like really gathering from all different directions. And this is kind of, I have an episode called The Digital Gardening. It's like something to do with digital gardening to stop my doom scrolling. And the concept of digital gardening has helped my creative process 100% because basically you're connecting disparate ideas. I think so much of creativity is just taking two ideas that haven't been connected yet and connecting them in some way. So, in everything that I'm consuming, I'm taking notes basically and then categorizing those things based on like thematic through lines. And then the way that I'm taking these notes shows me the web of how all of these interests are connected. And I can go into my like note software and see like, okay, this interest has an entire web of resources that I've been pulling from and thinking about for 3 months now. What can I do to connect those in a new way that they haven't connected before? So I usually take a good week just for that process. And then I'll sit down and start to outline the episodes. And I'm outlining them in a similar way that I'm doing that you would outline like an essay. And then I'm recording the episodes, and recording the episodes takes me days. Like, I think it's kind of an insane, absurd process as far as podcasting goes. I don't know other podcasters that take as much time to record a solo podcast
Mhm.
episode that I do. I spend so much time just because I'm podcasting in a way that is more akin to writing an essay than a traditional
Yeah.
podcasting would be. And then from there, during the editing process, I'm also connecting all of these different like memes and quotes from across the internet that have to do with what I'm talking about. And that's just like sitting down and really like searching the internet for hours and hours and hours. But yeah, I feel like my creative process really comes down to connecting disparate ideas because there's like a moment where two completely like opposite things come together that you're like, it feels like putting a puzzle piece
Mhm.
in the right spot.
Yeah.
That's like so exciting to me.
I have like 80 tabs open all the time with ideas or beginnings of essays for a Substack. And sometimes I coincide that with the podcast. Do you feel like certain ideas are like the time is now and other ones are like not yet? Do they speak to you in
Oh
that
yeah.
way?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's so many ideas that feel really exciting and they also feel like if I sat down to talk about them today, I would be absolutely saying nothing. Like it's interesting because you can be really excited about something and you're learning a lot about it, but you can't synthesize it yet.
Yeah.
And you have to like sit on it for a while. And I think I usually know when it's like, okay, it's time for this topic. Like I'm ready for this versus, ooh, I gotta sit on that for a little while
Yeah.
longer.
There's a weird intuitive sense that is like, okay, it's time for this one. And I find that
Yeah.
those things speak to me in a specific way creatively where I have stuff I've written, like I pull stuff that I've written 2 years ago. And now I'm like, oh, it's time.
Yeah. It's also interesting. I feel like a lot of the times I'll put out episodes and I'll get a bunch of comments that are like, you're talking about something that I've been thinking about for weeks. Like you're in my brain, you're
Mm.
in my head, whatever. And it's like, no, I'm not. We're just actually all a lot more connected than we like to think that we are. Like it's also like our thoughts, especially because of the internet, because we're all sharing our thoughts on the internet all the time, are just like we are on the same wavelength. And I might synthesize this information and put different things together in a different way than you
Yeah.
would. But likely we are also thinking about very similar things because of the way that trend cycles move and whatever. Like I don't really talk hyper specifically about trends, but yeah, I don't know. There's like a collective consciousness thing going
Mhm.
on for sure. People say that all the time. Like you're talking about something I've been thinking about a lot.
No, there's threads that we're all pulling in different ways, and nothing I'm saying is relatively new. In a lot of ways, this podcast is an aggregate of knowledge around how do we build new pathways in business and in life to be more fulfilled, to understand what is
Yeah.
success that's not just monetary emphasis. And I'm not the only person talking about this. There's 800,000 people talking about this. And that's what's so fun about it is everyone has their own unique point of view, and then we get to come together and further pull that thread. And that's what I like about the internet is I'm like, "Oh, all these amazing thinkers, we're all saying the same thing in slightly different ways."
Yeah. And I think that this like obsession with creating new ideas and like putting out like the most advanced theory on whatever can hold people back in a big way. But I think it's a really masculine belief that
Mhm.
you need to like there is something about nurturing a concept and like teaching a concept in a new way that feels like I don't know. I feel like it's somehow connected to the patriarchy, and I don't know if I can like really say why right now, but it feels feels like it is.
Well, I'm gonna volunteer some stuff. I read a lot about how do big political movements and changes happen and how do revolutions happen, right? And revolutions are largely grounded in nurturing. A movement that is nurtured, a movement like that is not something that comes in with force quickly. It is a slow burn and a slow build over time that hits a boiling point. And how does that happen? Largely, it's usually women, women of color, who are building and nurturing that movement over a very long time.
Yeah. Have you heard the song The Hand by Annabelle Dinda?
No, but I'm going to look it up after this.
Okay, so it's a song that went very viral on TikTok in the past couple of weeks. And the first lines are, it's like every guy that writes a song is a cowboy, a sailor, whatever. And it goes on, like, kind of talking about like the big bursts of like, there's something about conquering in everything
Mhm.
that they make. Like, they've got to be like on a conquest, like Marvel movie type thing. And then she has a line that's like, every time I open my mouth, I think, wow, what a loud noise. And when I heard that lyric, I was like, that's the experience of making art or putting anything out there as a woman, of like constantly feeling like I don't have something super revolutionary to say. But like you're saying, like the revolutionary thing is in the nurturing of the ideas that are already there and like synthesizing them and sharing them in new ways.
Yeah, but whether or not it's groundbreaking, what I have found is because I do speak a lot about, feminist issues, I speak at conferences about this. The moment I say anything slightly genderized on the internet, 10 men will come in and say something hateful. Whereas I'm like, I don't really see
Oh, yeah.
women spending their free time getting on the internet saying hateful stuff. Like, it's just not really like the female way. And I've just gotten to this point where
Yeah.
I'm like, I would rather be like, yeah, it is a loud noise and bang, 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 and not feel a type of way about it because it doesn't matter either way. If I say something politically more, like I've said the most like neutral kind genderized statements that are not inflammatory at all. I literally did an episode about the single tax, which affects men and women, disproportionately women, right? Just because of finances, but it's not like a solely a female problem. And it was the most neutralized statement, and I still got the same comments. And so I was like, it doesn't matter if I cater this to you with a bow or if I say it in a more
No.
opinionated way, I'm going to receive the same reaction. So I might as well say it the way that I want to say it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no winning in a situation like that. I feel like anytime I get like a male incel type comment, it is the quickest and easiest block of any.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the discourse that actually affects me are people that are saying something intelligent and like rooted in something real. And
Yeah.
every time that it's just some guy, I'm like, you are just some guy.
100%. They're like, your
I
opinions are
don't care.
loud. And I'm like, yeah, they are. Like,
Yeah.
you want me to say?
Okay.
Cool.
Being opinionated is great. Goodbye.
That one comment's not going to change how I move through the world, buddy. But,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
appreciate.
have an episode that's called like why selfish women heal society, which is obviously a little bit clickbaity, but
Yeah.
also like the contents of that episode were about that topic. And so many comments were like, you want to be selfish? How dare you? This is not doing anything for society. And it's like, well, you very clearly didn't watch the episode. And even if
Mhm.
you did, you don't have the mental capacity to be in this space. And that's fine. Goodbye.
Right,
Like, you
you're
don't
not
have
the
to be here.
demographic. Yeah, you're not the audience.
No,
Like,
exactly. It's like you clicked on the episode. You are not wasting anyone's time but your own. So, good for you.
if they do engage, you're planting seeds that you don't know how they bloom, whether or not people are hateful or not. Like, I'm always of the mindset, I'm like, okay, engage with the content, whether you're a hater or a lover.
Yeah.
There are seeds that are planted, which I have seen very clearly in my own life with people who've had differing viewpoints to me that maybe 5 years later, they were repeating back something I said to them 5 years before. And you're like, oh, okay. So, like, sometimes things root in
It
your
seeped
brain.
in.
Hmm.
Right. They
And that
won't acknowledge it in the moment, but it's there. It sits with them.
you may never get credit, but it doesn't matter because if you seep in and you change their way of thinking or you plant a seed, that's all that really matters. Like, we don't get to decide how and when the work is interpreted. You just make the work.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I internet discourse has definitely been a big part of what's interesting to adjust to. I've been seeing a lot about people like having to let go of the feeling of like needing to control everyone's reactions
Mhm.
to what they're putting out. And this is something that in every episode since I like went viral the first time, I have had to like really consciously grapple with of like I don't want to censor myself,
Right.
but I want to be very clear in my wording so that people don't misunderstand me. But no matter what, when you're putting stuff out there online, there will be people that will misunderstand you just because they can't get there yet. And there will be people that will willfully misunderstand you because
Right.
they're like rage baiting.
Right.
Um, and there's nothing you can do about that.
How do you effectively manage your community?
So I try not to police my comments too much. I feel like letting people have differing opinions is very important to me. Something that I have made clear to my audience, though, is that when they start to try to police me, that's when they get blocked. So, policing looks like obviously straight up hatred is going to get blocked 100%. But also, there is something that happens when people start to form a parasocial relationship with you where they start to feel like they can control you in maybe a
Mhm.
similar way that you, as the creator, feel like you can control the audience's reactions. They, as the audience, feel that they can control you as the like performer. And it's like, no, either way, we have to let go of this idea that we can control each other. So there have been instances where it's like it feels like this person is trying to control my behavior in a
Interesting.
way that is like a a they're overstepping a boundary. That gets blocked. I feel like I used to be not as quick to block, but I've gotten much quicker to block lately.
You want to create a creative generative space for yourself. And if there's too much
Yeah.
hatred or people violating boundaries, it doesn't allow you to stay in the state to create the work. And I'm like
Yeah.
this because I manipulate all my algorithms to be positive. And so my Instagram is not a hateful place because I only follow joyful accounts or things that make me happy. And that's a big part of why social media has stayed a neutral place in my life because I've cultivated a digital world that makes me feel creative and seen.
Right. Yeah, and it's also like making sure that the other people in my community feel safe. Like sometimes someone will come in and start to like badger other people in the comments, and it's like we're not doing that. Like this
Yeah.
is this is not a space to be like controlling other people in whatever way. Like whether it's like straight up hatred to me or like hatred to another commenter. Like I saw somebody that posted like, "Oh, my show is on." And then someone responded, "That's so cringy." And I was like, "Blocked. Like you're not
Yeah.
going to talk to people like that. Like we're not going to make people feel like shit for liking something."
Yeah.
It's insane behavior.
No, it is. I mean, the internet is full of insane, diabolical behavior.
Yeah.
Truly.
But I mean, once you get to a certain amount of people in your audience, you have to think about it as like, okay, if 100,000 people were in a room together, which would be insane, you would have a certain amount of that audience or that crowd of people that don't know how to behave.
Yep.
And it's not really an anomaly.
No, no, no. Yeah. I think it's important to set the boundaries and guardrails for your community. And like you, I used to engage a lot more, maybe like 6, 7 years ago, I would get into fights on the internet. And it was like I had found a lot of fun in it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna prove you
Yeah.
wrong. And like I did, but now I'm like, that is a lot of time and energy that I do not care
Yeah,
to give.
right. That's what can be so frustrating is I feel like back in like 2020 when it was like lockdown, nobody had
Mhm.
anything to do. I remember doing that, like getting into like tussles on Facebook, you know? But now it's like, do you not have anything else to do? Because if
100%.
you don't, you need to find something else to do. Like, we're at such a critical point in history right now. If this is your activism, if this is the way that you think that you're going to make a difference in the world, you're wasting your time. And that annoys me. Like, get it together, do something better with your time.
People need hobbies. People need
Oh,
hobbies, and
yeah.
I don't understand this because I have 8,000 hobbies, and you talk to people and they just go to work, they come home, they watch TV, they maybe hang out with their friends, but they don't have any other outlet, whether it's like philanthropy, volunteering, art, creative arts, reading a book. I'm like, what are you doing with your time? No wonder you're upset. No wonder you're depressed. Like, hobbies give us purpose.
Yeah. I mean, it's truly addiction, I think, on a really, really wide scale to content, whatever the content may be. It's like, I'm going to come home and I'm going to watch a screen, whether that's my phone or my computer or my TV screen, I'm just going to watch a screen. And yeah, I think people's like creative muscles are atrophying. And so are their like all of our muscles are
Right.
atrophying. We've got to go out. And whether it's like a physical hobby or a creative hobby, like there are so many different ways to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to my mom who was like, my therapist told me that I need to go get a hobby. Don't worry. She has told me, she has commented this on my YouTube channel. So that's not
So
a
I'm like,
secret.
your mom goes to therapy? Okay, mom.
Yes, I love that for her. She's amazing. I'm like, yeah, you do need to get a hobby, whether that's like going and getting a paint by number or going and volunteering for like an animal shelter. You got to do something.
Yeah, I think it changes even people I talk to that are very isolated, live alone, don't have a partner, and they feel a little bit more lonely. I'm like, well, doing these things give us a sense of purpose. Doesn't necessarily take your mind off your depression, but it allows you to distract yourself, whether it's for a short term. And then, that's why as much as jobs can be like soul sucking, sometimes it's also just a way to like get to the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. Get yourself in community with other people. And I feel like sometimes the community part of things, if you do feel very isolated, can be a big hurdle because
Yeah.
you're going from, scrolling and immediately getting that dopamine hit to sometimes forming a community can be a really slow, uncomfortable process for people to really face. But cumulatively over the years, it is like one of the most beneficial things for your mental health.
It is the number one. I mean, being relational is the deep source of meaning of our lives. Like when we die, that's what people think about are the people they spent time with. Like being in community is also the best indicator of longevity, of how long you're going to live. Like it is
Yeah.
the number one thing as a human being is to live. That's why it's so crazy that we're all just like on these screens now because it's like we're literally like
Right.
shortening
Well,
our
and it's
lifespan.
hard because yeah, and it's unfortunately like giving people this smoke and mirrors version of community, and it's like actually your online community is not going to give you the same support that like an in-person community would. And that's why I'm kind of like I love having an online community, but I will always prioritize meeting people, you know,
Totally.
over like some sort of chat room or Discord.
Well, even when I'm out, everyone's always like, you need to be getting more content, more content, more content. And I'm like, I'm present. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I am present. My mind is not thinking I need more content. My mind is thinking I'm present with the people that I care about. And yes, I would probably
Right.
benefit from getting more content. But we're so focused on documenting our lives that we are not living them.
Oh, absolutely. It's got to take something away to like be hanging out with your friends and be thinking, "Oh, I need to like do a photo shoot right now," or "Oh, I need footage for." Like I've done a couple of vlogs and they were fun mostly in the editing process because that's like a that feels like a creative thing to like put together almost like a movie, but like the filming does not feel like something I want to pour a lot of time and energy into and feels like something that actually does kind of detract from the moment. So, yeah, sometimes it's like, I don't know, I want to hold on to memories and to document things. And I think that that's a lot of the impulse behind making content. Not always, but that's there. And that would be like the fun part of creating something like a vlog of like, I have this like digital scrapbook, sort of. But also, while I was filming it, I was taken out of the moment thinking like, oh, what's the right shot? Oh, oops, I forgot to film this, you know? So,
There's a time and a place for it, but I'm very big on bifurcating those moments. Like these are the moments where I'm capturing and these are the moments where I'm living. I don't want to look back and feel like I wasn't present. You know, except even a lot of my friends have kids and I love their kids, but there is this distraction that happens where you're not as locked in one-on-one as you used to be. And sometimes I think that's what like capturing content is doing, obviously not as valuable as your child. But the point is you're sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to feel like I can't be 100% present with you.
yeah. Yeah, children really bring out a different level of presence. I was just with my
It's
like 2-year-old niece this past week and I was like, this is a level of like if I pick up my phone, she's like
Mhm.
in my face, you know? And it's like and I don't even want to because there is something so actively happening all the time, every moment of the day that just requires you to kind of stop and watch them, you
Yeah.
know? Like
It's also new eyes because everything's new. So you're just seeing with watching life through whether it's when I got my puppy or a kid, there's all these firsts that you're already so jaded and you're like, oh, I've done that 8,000 times. And seeing a kid do it, you're like, oh my God, the wonder, the
yeah,
joy.
yeah, everything she does is hilarious to me. She does this thing where she like goes into the other room and takes all of her stuffed animals, like takes them and then brings them into the other room and then she'll come back to the room and be like, "I did mischief." Like,
Oh my gosh,
that's
that's so cute.
amazing. You
I
did
love
do
her
mischief.
version of mischief. It's like the
She's
sweetest.
so cute. Yeah, she's like, "I took something from one room and put it in the other." Like, I'm so mischievous.
Let that be her level of mischief the rest of her life.
No, honestly.
Pure. How do you stay creatively generative? Is there tools that you use to stay in a state? Do you find it sort of natural? It tells you. I love hearing people's how they stay in a creative mindset or groove.
Yeah, I think it goes back to knowing that I don't have to make something completely new. I feel like it's a concept of like attuning, like keeping the doors open versus feeling like I need to step into like a creative moment. And this looks so different for everyone. Like some people need like these rituals that like encase them in a time of day. Like I sit down at this time of day and I write and, you know, but for me it's like inspiration can strike at any moment in the day, and it's just my responsibility to listen. Like, I used to think that I would need to sit down and just like think up the next thing. And really, what it looks like most of the time is like I'm sitting on the subway and someone says something interesting in a conversation with their partner across from me. And I'm like, huh, I'm going to write that down. And it's like a couple words, but I had to be listening to what was happening around me and like taking note of things. I think that's really the crux of like digital gardening for me is like I'm constantly taking notes and it's not always even like the next thing that I'm going to write. It's just like I want to remember that. And I don't always know in the moment why I'm noting something down, but it
Right.
always comes into play at some point. So yeah, I guess to stay creatively generative, it really is just about keeping the doors open.
Self-trust, to know you don't know why it's valuable, but something's telling you it is.
Yeah. Yeah, self-trust really comes into play, especially when you're working on a schedule to have an output. I'm doing these episodes once every 2 weeks, and it has happened where it's like I'll get close to the deadline for the next episode and I'll be like, what the fuck am I going to talk about? Oh no, do I not have anything to talk about this week? And there is that feeling of pressure that can start to really like loom over you. And that feeling of pressure can close the doors to the generative like feeling that you're looking for. And it's really just like you have to relax. Like you have to like relax into it. And like you said, trust yourself. Like trust that you have something to say, you have something to put out there, even when it feels like tumbleweeds.
Yeah.
It can feel like that sometimes.
I think that's also the process of writing is you just write a little bit every day and you just the process. You're like, what am I even writing? Does it even it's crap. And then suddenly it's not crap.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever do morning pages like from the artist's way?
I have not, but I probably need to do this book at some point, but I'm a very disciplined person. So like when I had a writing coach a couple years ago and I had to show like 5 pages every week. And so I'm not someone who has like internal inertia. I'm not really a procrastinator. I actually just did like a brain.
Nice. That's awesome.
Well, I just did a brain thing actually. I think it's a trauma response. I wouldn't say this is coming from a great place.
Oh, okay.
This is a healthy coping mechanism.
Something to work
trauma.
on. Okay.
I actually just did like a brain, I'm going to write about it, a brain exercise to figure out why I am so associated and why I do not procrastinate. And so we have a lineage now that I need to sort of down and eventually I'll share, but it's not normal. I'm not normal in this capacity. So don't listen to me.
Well, morning pages, I did not keep up with by any means, but morning pages are like you wake up in the morning and you write 3 pages. Stream of consciousness, don't make it good, just write whatever's on your brain. And it was crazy to me how much of morning pages were just me sitting there being like, I have nothing to write. I don't know what to write. I have nothing to write. Why do I have to keep writing? And because you're supposed to keep the pen moving, basically. And it's just crazy. When you sit down to like really make something, it's crazy how loud your mind gets to be like, you don't have anything to make.
Mm-hmm.
What are you even doing? You don't have anything. And you have to like actually, or at least I do, like have to really work through that feeling and kind of tell that feeling to shut up because yes, you do.
There's so much judgment. My friend, who's a very successful screenwriter, she just started The Artist's Way morning pages. And she was like, I started the book and I just got to the page. They're like, write down anybody who has ever told you like you're not a creative or your dreams will never happen. And she was like, I shut the book. I was so like, it was so confronting. And she was like, but I know I need to do it because there is so much scrutiny and judgment when you do pursue a creative path because it's not ultimately what capitalism values. And so, I mean, that's also talk about being a shadow artist. That's what took me a very long time to step into my whole creative self was because I felt so much pressure societally from my family, from people that it was maybe a silly pursuit if I couldn't financially sustain my life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like messaging that I think most of us get at some point, whether it's from our parents or someone else. It's like almost impossible to sidestep in a capitalist world. And it's like, even once you start to like make money from something creative, then there's the piece of you that's like, oh, am I gonna lose the creative aspect of this because there's now a money element? It's like this constant balancing act of like, how do I stay connected to the artist piece of me when money is even in the conversation, wherever it is in the conversation?
Messy middle of I'm making some money from my creative pursuits, but it's not paying all of my bills. And that's a period most of us experience. That's once you cross the creative chasm, it's usually pretty good, but it takes time to sort of cross that. If we have like Odysseus on a journey, that's how I think of it. I'm like, I'm on the boat. We're eventually going to get to the place. But
Yeah.
it is take time. And there's so much. I have found that messy middle to be very challenging to navigate as someone who, most of my life I had a salary or more, predictability. All of a sudden you're like, okay, goodbye, all predictability. Welcome to uncertainty. And that takes a level of self-trust, self-belief. Ran into one of my friends from college a few weeks ago, and she was like, "You're just like doing all the things. You're still doing it." And I was like, "Well, I want it. I want it.
Yeah,
And whether or not I'm
right.
paid, I'm going to do it anyways, but I want it."
Totally.
Whereas a lot of my friends who had some success or chose this path, they gave it up because they did not want it enough.
Totally. And I've been there with like, I have an acting degree that I have not used because I did not want it. And I'll be the first to say I didn't want it. Like, I think that also there's like for creative people that like try out some sort of creative modality and at some point lose it or like stop it or whatever, they can start to tell themselves like, well, I'm not really an artist. I'm not because I didn't like pursue that thing. And it's like, well, maybe your artistry just wants a different way to go.
Mhm.
Like, I didn't care enough about acting to like fully pursue it as a career, but I care so much about what I'm doing now that I'm thinking about it all the time in a
Yeah.
way that I don't think I ever saw myself caring about work. Like in
Mm.
general, I never thought of myself as a person that was like career oriented. I thought I would always be like an artist that was like maybe making a little bit of money and like didn't really care about the work that was making me money, but really cared about what I was doing on the side. Like
Love
the kind
that.
of like starving artist thing. Like
Yeah.
I thought that that was my life. And now I'm doing something that's making me money that I am so viscerally obsessed with. So yeah, I just think like if you're a creative person, you're a creative person. It should be
100%.
expressed however it's coming through.
You are living your unique genius, right? This is the whole point, is that like you, I was acting. I wanted to be an actor. And then I got to college and had to memorize a monologue for class. And I was like, I don't want to memorize this. And I had this moment where I was like, oh, I don't want to act. I want to play myself. But I did not know what that meant at 19 years old. And at the
Hmm.
time, I was like, "Oh, talk show host." I didn't think I was like pretty enough or any. I've also had nothing to fucking say at 19 years old. But the point is, I think as time has passed, I'm like, "Oh, I had this really good instinct that I was a performer, that there was a piece of this that I enjoyed, but now that's exactly what I do is I play myself. I speak at conferences, I have this podcast, I DJ, I perform there. But it was all just needed the right expression. And I think when you
Yeah,
find the unique genius, life has a way of unfolding. Like I think you see like
totally.
you had this audience that found you relatively quickly, like you stepped into really full purpose.
Yeah, I got a comment on my last episode that's about like desire, pinpointing your desire and then actually following it and asking for help from the people around you to bring your desires to life. And I got a comment from someone that was basically saying like, I don't think I should trust my desires because they've only led me astray. Like I got this PhD in this thing and now I can't get a job in that field. And my response to that was just like, it doesn't sound like it was the desire that was wrong. Like, it just might be expressed in the world in a different way than
Right.
you previously imagined. But that doesn't mean that the thing that you desire is wrong for leading you in the direction that it led you. Like the reason why I got an acting degree is a similar thing of like a lot of it I think was I wanted to express emotions and validate emotions as they came out of my body. And a way that I was able to do that was through acting. But I
Yeah.
did not give a fuck about the things that, sorry, I feel like I'm cussing.
Don't worry.
Okay. I did not care about the lifestyle of an actor and like
Mhm.
auditioning for things. I didn't want to audition for things.
Yeah.
Auditioning sounded like the worst way to spend my time. But like the performance of it was something I was really interested in and still feel like I'm doing with what I'm doing now. Exploring emotions and like healing and that kind of thing is something I feel like I'm doing now. It's just being expressed in a different way than I could have ever known when I was 18.
Yeah, and to that commenter, if they tune into this, I just want to say, as someone who's had many reroutes in their career and life, I can positively say everyone served a purpose. And if that purpose was just making me into a better, more whole person to step into the next chapter of my life, that was time well spent. And all of us, we don't get to determine when like things in our life take off. And that's been hard for me as someone who's older than you. I'm still waiting exactly on when I feel like I'm where I want to be. And I don't get to decide that. My only job is to do the work and trust that it's being received and eventually it will grow. Like that's really the job of the work, is to focus on you and how you show up and how you react, but you can't control the rest. You just can't.
Yeah. I saw something last night that was like, your job is not to define yourself in the world. Your job is to relentlessly pursue your interests, and the world will define you.
Mhm.
Like, it's not about being like, I want to be seen as an actor, so I hope that the world sees me as an actor. It's like, do I care enough about acting to run in the direction of
Yep.
acting? And then the world might define me as that, but I'm also so many other things on top of it.
Totally. And this took me a really long time to grasp and believe, is that rejection is protection. Every single time something has not worked out, I later have been like, oh my goodness, if I had known that at the time, I wouldn't have wanted it anyways. And so that's how I look at
Yeah.
everything now. That it feels disappointing. I just trust the process. Rejection is always protection. And I am being saved, divinely saved, probably from a terrible
Yes.
experience.
Yeah. The burnt toast theory. You know the
Yes.
burnt toast theory?
No, share
It's
with
the same
us.
thing. Oh, the burnt toast theory is like basically the theory that if there's like a minor inconvenience that happens that like makes you late somewhere, you actually, if you would have been on time, you would have been in like some terrible accident or something. I always tell myself that when I'm like, God,
Funny.
why didn't this thing work out for me? It's like, well, probably because of exactly what you're saying, rejection is protection. Like, it would have been much worse if it worked out in the way that I imagined that it should.
Every time. And when I bulldozed to get the thing that I wanted and I got it, that had the signals or I was ignoring them, got there and I was like, you know what? Not happy, not what I wanted. So it's
Not my
just like,
thing.
yeah, just so much trust that life is working for you. I think I really do believe that.
Yeah. And also trust, like you were saying earlier about self trust, of like, I trust myself to bring myself through whatever consequences or rewards come up with whatever decision I make. I feel like I used to be so concerned with making the quote unquote right decision. And it's like, there is no right decision, there's just the
No.
next decision. And you can deal with whatever comes up because of it.
Before we go, I have one more question I'm curious about, and then I will relinquish you. But I want to know, when you talked about having come from a traditional podcast production background to making your own, you broke a lot of rules. Can you tell us what some of those best practices were that you broke and that you found really worked for you?
Yeah. So the name of the podcast was like a big way of me breaking my own rules. Like, I feel like I just spent so much time telling people, like, here's how to make your podcast succeed. Make it really SEO optimized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, have the podcast title be something that someone will search up and immediately know what the podcast is about and understand your branding and blah, blah, blah. And I remember like going on a walk one day and listening to Mary Oliver on like I think it was like the On Being podcast or something. I don't know. And just thinking to myself, like, everyone that I want to talk to, like, I had this whole list of people that I wanted to interview. And I was like, everyone that I want to talk to embodies this poem. Like, and
Mm,
it's as simple as that. I don't know what the other through line is. Like, all of these people, it was basically just people in any like form of interest. Like, I had tarot card readers, I had dream interpreters, I had like a guy that was like starting a gym. It was anything and everything. And I was like, oh, it's this. Like, they all have this essence that's like, they know about what this poem means to me.
right.
And that's not easily translatable. There have been a couple of times when people have right off the bat been like, oh, Mary Oliver? But that's not like, usually nobody's like going on to podcast players and looking up Wild Geese.
Yeah.
So like that's one way of like, I just allowed myself to fully let it be what it is and not be optimized in all of the ways that I knew a podcast should be optimized in order to gain reach and succeed. I just had to kind of throw some things out. And it was also like capacity wise, the things that I knew would really make a successful podcast. I was like, I'm one person that's doing this on top of doing
Right.
this for other people.
Right.
Like half
Yeah.
of it, throw it out just so that I can get it out into the world. Like action over procrastination. I am definitely a procrastinator. I need to be told to just do it.
Yeah, I will hopefully this thing when I eventually write it up will help people understand the motivation behind that because I'm the outlier in not being a procrastinator. Like I'm sick. I'm sick. I'm not well.
No, well. Yeah, I need a little less procrastination in my
Well, I think
life.
that's I love I think that's really interesting because my last podcast I held, I think, with a more clenched fist. And this one I'm holding a lot lighter with a lot more experimentation, a lot more curiosity, a lot more we'll see like how things go. And I am finding that because of that, I am having a ton of fun.
And that's the most important thing, especially with podcasting, because you're needing like longevity and consistency and whatever. And the only thing that will let you show up to something consistency is really, really enjoying what you're doing. So if it's like, here are all of the rules that you can follow in order to have a technically great podcast that should grow, but you're then forcing yourself to show up to it every week, that's going to translate and nobody's going to want to listen to that. And I feel like I
100%.
was coming across that with clients that were like, I'm doing everything that I should be doing, I'm doing everything right, but I don't want to be doing this anymore. And it would then be like, okay, well, then you shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the podcasters that remain are the ones that continue to love it and do it because they love it, not because there's any other engine moving that for them. Most people do this as a marketing funnel now. Like for a lot of people, it's like their lead engine
Totally.
for their business, which is fine. But I also took this podcast class and it was like, well, what's your ask at the end? And I was like, I don't really have an ask. Like I'm just doing this because I love doing it. And I hope eventually, we get more ad dollars and we do the thing. But I'm not driving to coaching. I'm not driving to a class. I'm doing this because I genuinely love these people and what they have to say. And I want to share more brain space with the world because I want to live in a better world.
Yeah. It really felt like going in and doing this and like throwing out all of the things that I had been telling people to do for so long was like, am I going to be putting out the sign that like all of this is for naught? And it's like, no, if your goal is to drive revenue and that's exciting to you, then that's exciting to you. But that's not what was exciting to me. Like it just
Right.
comes down to like what is exciting to you. And if it's exciting to use it as a marketing funnel, you do that. I just couldn't get myself to care enough to show up every week to just use it as a marketing funnel.
No, but when you take these classes, they're emphasizing that. And it's great to talk to someone who's living proof that you don't have to do all the things they say to do to be successful. And when I look at the podcasts I love the most that I listen to regularly, none of them are driving to any sort of business. They are the business, like their personality and their talent, but they're not driving to some sort of ask
Yeah,
to convert you to pay for anything. And I appreciate that in a world that is always asking us to pay more.
always,
So
without fail.
this was so fun, honestly, so fun to have another
Yeah,
podcaster. I had a blast. I can't even believe I
me
blinked
too.
and we're like done. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me on. This was very fun.
And obviously we know her podcast is called Wild Geese, but where else can people find you?
So you can find me on YouTube. The podcast is also video version on YouTube. My YouTube handle is I am Anna Corinne, but if you just look up Anna Howard Wild Geese, I believe it will come up. And then my Instagram is Wild Geese Pod.
Go find
Also, I have a
her.
Substack. I guess I should
Ooh,
plug the Substack too. Let me see,
plug
what's my Substack?
plug the Substack.
Okay, and my Substack is Anna Corinne.
I love Substack. I'm having a ball on Substack too. Time of my life.
It's so
Um,
fun.
so
Yeah.
fun. Go follow. She's got amazing, amazing episodes. They will make you think, make you curious, make you step into a more creative, full version of yourself. And we're just so grateful that you gave us some time.
Thank you so much for having me on again.
Thank you so much for listening. If you do like listening, it would mean the world to us if you could subscribe or review the podcast anywhere that you watch or listen to the podcast. It really helps with the algorithm to share this with the world. I want to give a special thank you to young Spielberg and Sarah Yarkin for their beautiful work on our opening jingle. Dana Boulos for her help with the beautiful art, and to all of you for tuning in and keeping this dream alive. If you want to hear certain topics or from certain guests, please feel free to email us. We really, really want to hear from you and see how we can best support you. See you next time.